we have this thing called the Storymatic. First one, fashion designer. There was a fashion designer. One day while she was on the design floor, she went to her closet and found this wonderful outfit. This outfit was amazing. I mean, we're talking about, it had sequins, it had a frilly collar, it had a short cape to it, and it was just swanky. It was like a one-piece suit, something that would be worn by Evel Knievel, but also sexy enough to be on a runway. And it made her feel masculine. And for a while, when she wore this thing, her persona was to become masculine. She was in a place where she could be a he or a she. Most people didn't really know. She was very flamboyant. He was sometimes reserved and enjoyable, but she was just not one gender, genderless, but we're going to use the pronouns anyways here. Needing this inspiration, she goes to this closet and she sees this wonderful outfit and she smells it. It just comes right back to her. She remembered when she was about 14 and she conceived of this costume. And it wasn't for a party. It wasn't for Halloween. It wasn't for anything else other than the joy of going out into the world and being able to express herself. And at that point, she was really confused because people told her, you don't express yourself with this type of costume. That's a boy's costume. That's for boys. And she's like, well, I am a boy too. I am more than just this or that. Instead of getting discouraged and displeased with the way people were treating her and trying to box her in, she decided that she didn't want to have one pronoun. She wanted many. This outfit, this costume, was a way for she to express her he side. And so she walked through life and she found that when she wore this wonderful Evel Knievel style outfit, her masculinity was truly more of a he than a she. And it was amazing. People looked at her differently. They would talk to her differently. Instead of being feminine and responding, it would be masculine. And she became he, Fred, for the Frederica. During this time, Fred and Frederica were figuring out the day-to-day. One day you go out with an outfit and people would see you and say, hey, Fred, hey, Freddie, how's it going? And other days you go out with a different outfit, and it would be, hey, Frederica, how's it going? Fred and Frederica became two halves of the same coin. Loving life, loving putting people on their toes. And people always felt kind of awkward in her mind, in his mind. And there was a certain delight in getting people to challenge the norms and to become more. And it was a beautiful thing. And from that, Fred and Frederica basically, new card, developed this desire to be a person that could say anything. And crazily enough, Fred and Frederica would stop, have outfit changes sometimes. He decided to have these breakaway outfits, and so he would go out into the world and people would speak with them. And I know it sounds kind of schizophrenic, but it was one of her personas, or his persona. They would have these great and amazing conversations, and the directness, and where people would be like, oh, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to call you. I don't know what's going on. And they would basically say, it doesn't matter. The directness and the stimulation of the people's intellect, their emotional intelligence, became crazy in a good way. And so the dream of this fashion designer, learning these things at such a young age, at the ripe age of 14, went on to form their own design studio. And it was marvelous that it was like watching like a Clark Kent and a Superman, but instead of the Superman, it would be like the Supergirl. Being able just to play around and have these exchanges. People started to listen. They could look past these pronouns, these dingle bits for your berries and your hoo-has, whatever. It was quite interesting in that as she gained the audience and people listened, people's ideas became elevated. People stopped thinking about themselves as men or women. They thought about themselves as beings, as people. From there, she started a wondrous fashion design firm, and where they made these clothes that were all about challenging gender norms, and on top of it, being breakaways, so you could be one and then the other, or neither. Always challenging people to appreciate your art, to appreciate your ability to express yourself, and her following became enormous. This was before the Instagrams and Snapchats. Final card. Fred and Frederica, as they enjoyed each other's company, two halves of the same whole in some ways, crossed that line. They promised themselves not to lose sight of this wondrous place that they are in life. And so what happened was that they had this promise. And the sacred promise from Fred to Frederica was, we will always love each other and we'll never conform to what other people think that we should be. And so coming back to that fashion designer room, the workshop with his people all around, the team of wonderful people and followers and people that were in this notion of challenging thoughts. She goes back to that closet. He goes back to that closet, smelling this wonderful, amazing Evel Knievel outfit, but also kind of like very unicorn princess outfit too. Very, very interesting. And so what happened that day, with all the nostalgia in their heart, Frederica met a man, and this man was beautiful. His name was Rico, and he was everything you would ever want in a man. He was emotionally intelligent, intellectual. He was masculine but had feminine wiles. He was a nice balance. Didn't really conform so much to gender norms as well. And Frederica fell in love. And at that point, the promise was broken between Frederica and Fred. Frederica felt the pain and agony of only being one half of her in his previous whole. And it was very hard in the relationship, filled with so much love and so much chemistry. I mean, not to mention the sex. The sex was amazing. But as those things start to fade, it became very crushing. Started to lose, she, in this case, started to lose her whole passion. Her desire to create. The speaking changed. The conformity started to happen. She was starting to feel lost. And so she did the final thing in this wallowing of the broken promise. She went on a walkabout. And this walkabout was from the heart of New York to Malaysia. Very hard to walk across oceans. So she did a lot of walking while she was on boats. Trust me. Frederica went on this journey, trying to be inspired, trying to mend this broken promise between herself. She did it by transforming again back into Fred and walking the world in this place. But she had to leave Rico behind, or he had to leave Rico behind. It was an interesting story. In the end, they found in Malaysia this temple. And in this temple, they walk in and it's quiet. There are monks meditating. They're in their full robe and they're just channeling the state of the universe. And they go up to this monk, a very wizened and old monk. They greet first with Fred. They ask this question of the monk and they say, "Mr. Monk, we have come all this way for ancient wisdom. I do not want to be a man. I want to be more." And the monk looks at Fred in the eyes, looks at this wonderful costume where it's one part monk garb, one part breakaway party style raver dress. Strange, I don't know. Things happen. And then nods. And then Frederica said, she steps in with this breakaway change and she says, "Mr. Monk, I don't want to be a woman. I want to be more." And so the monk said, And the monk brought out this bowl, this really large bowl. And in it, there was liquid. And the liquid was more like this silver metallic liquid. It wasn't quite water. It was very viscous. And he put his fingers on the edge of this bowl and he started to chant. And he invited both of them to place their hands on this bowl. And so what happened was that they all started to chant together. And Fred and Frederica, as they were chanting with Om into the bowl, something magical happened. And this liquid started to transform into these small blocks, into blocks that then started to change and create different shapes and stack on top of each other. And it started to build up this like doorway. And this doorway was large. And these were very, very strange, low resolution blocks. They looked very much something like Minecraft. And they, at that point, with their essence being split from the broken promise and trying to mend it, trying not to be these conformists, they transformed their essence. You could see it flowing into this doorway, into this Minecraft world, and they became something more. All of their thoughts became non-conformed, and they started to become more than one. They became many. that case, they became the pantheon of new gods in Minecraft, where just by mere thought, worlds and ideas and concepts were transforming into a new realm, a new reality. And this reality gave birth to a place where people could come and be more than they were. And they found a new transformation. Stepping back, they thought to themselves, as a fashion designer and a creator and a desire to create things that were more than one, they had found this place where they could craft infinite ideas, infinite possibilities. And as more people joined these places and the thoughts became more, they gave birth to other pantheons. And that's the story of the Frederica and Freddie Sacred Pact and their journey to create something more. I don't know why we were having a story about gender nonconformity and split personalities and monks and transformations in video games, but I don't know.